You don't have to have lived under a cave to have never heard of musician Robbie Williams. But if you're watching this video, you've probably already heard of Better Man, the musical biopic directed by the Greatest Showman director Michael Gracie, where the musician is played by, you heard it right, a CGI monkey. Except none of the characters even acknowledge the fact they're talking to a monkey, he just happens to be one. As an Australian, I know the name Robbie Williams, but I've only ever heard one of his songs, of which I liked very much, but didn't exactly inspire me. Check out his other music. So I can't say I watched this movie because I'm particularly a fan of Williams, or because I expected this movie to subvert all the biopic tropes which Walcott so masterfully parodied in 2007. I watched it for the monkey gimmick. Plain and simple. In an interview, director Michael Gracie explained that the reason they swapped the main character out for a CGI monkey is because it allows us to feel more empathy for the protagonist when the movie inevitably hits the rock bottom drug-addled stage which is prescribed from any musical biopic. For instance, the director said, "There's something inherently sad about seeing a monkey snort cocaine in one of the lowest moments of his life." When I initially heard about the CGI monkey gimmick, I expected the idea to be played for laughs. I mean, how could it not be? The idea is just inherently hilarious. I was wrong. How it plays out is much closer to what the filmmakers discussed in interviews. I know the word gimmick is treated as a bit of a dirty word, but this movie is a showcase for why gimmicks can elevate a movie, no matter how contrived the idea can be in concept. Ironically, the monkey angle only humanizes Williams more than the conventional biopic approach ever could, while simultaneously making him as distinguished and one of a kind as a star of his status should be. At least when it comes to the UK, I'm aware that Americans have never heard of this guy. With the monkey being such a core part of the film, the visual effect has to work incredibly well from a technical angle. It absolutely does, delivering on the best CGI monkey motion capture effects I've ever witnessed. That's saying quite a lot, because the Planet of the Apes remake series might just be my favorite movie trilogy. The motion capture here is emotive, grounded in reality, and allows every nuance in the actor's performance to come through. The most impressive aspect of this film is that at a certain point, I stopped questioning the fact he was even a monkey, because the film does such a good job grounding the idea in reality. On top of the core visual concept, the filmmakers find different ways to bring shame and make a monkey of the conventional biopic, specifically with its use of musical numbers. I suspect this idea was inspired by the Elton John biopic Rocket Man, which was essentially a jukebox musical, and it works incredibly well here. The musical sequence for the song Let Me Entertain You is especially bonkers, and if you've heard anyone compare this more to a fancy than to a musical, this scene is the apex of what they're talking about. Undoubtedly, the movie is still bound to a lot of the cliches and story beats that the cradle to grave biopic genre is bound to. You know, a lot of the stuff Dewey Cox went through in Walk Hard. Yeah, maybe there's no the wrong kid died, but he definitely does have to think about his entire life before he plays a show, if you know what I mean. Every genre has its tropes and conventions, whether it's the mystery genre or the whodunit, and I don't see anyone ragging on the whodunit genre for doing the whole lining up the suspect shtick in the third and first act. So yes, Robbie does struggle with drug addiction and has relationship issues with his family because, duh, it's a musical biopic film. But for the most part, it's executed incredibly well. The primary issue I have with musical biopics such as Bohemian Rhapsody and Elvis is their deification of their subject matter and their refusal to engage with the flaws of their protagonists in a meaningful way, instead portraying them as sympathetic wounded puppies at most. Even when the lead musician's being a jerk, yeah, it's not really their fault, is it? They mean well, they've just been through a little too much. But this movie is not at all afraid to call Robbie Williams out for the pathetic loser that he, and by extension all human beings, can be, delivering a portrayal that is flat out embarrassing at times. If Robbie wasn't directly involved in the making of this movie, you might even be able to call it a hit piece. If there's there's one issue this movie shares with other lesser biopics, it's the lack of narrative structure, with the first act of the film occasionally feeling like a bunch of events stitched together, with little to flow us from one to the other. But this issue becomes less pronounced as we get further into the movie. A big part of that is the movie's solid emotional foundation, which keeps the movie glued together, in spite of how disconnected it can become from an external narrative standpoint. It's far from an original or unpredictable emotional core, but it's reliable in concept and even more effective in execution, especially in how the movie builds this emotional core through its masterful use of music. The songs become an essential part of the narrative, which is far more effective than any well-produced but lifeless concert scene you would expect to find in an inferior biopic such as, you guessed it, Bohemian Rhapsody. I know I rag on it a lot, but that movie really captures almost everything wrong with the musical biopic genre. The acting performances are all great, with supporting players such as Steve Pemberton, Rachel Banner, and Damon Harriman each bringing their A-game. I must say though, this movie's portrayal of Oasis' Liam Gallagher is incredibly goofy. Yeah, I know he's an over-the-top guy in real life, but everything from the costume to the facial expressions to the voice just come across as bad cosplay. Yes, he's an incredibly hard guy to imitate, but that's not really an excuse, is it? With a $100 million budget, this movie is bound to be a flop. And it's a shame it isn't grossing more, because it's a great movie, but I can't say I'm exactly disappointed. From the moment I saw the trailer, I couldn't help but ask myself, who the hell is the market for a musical biopic about a musician who isn't exactly famous in the States and is played by a CGI monkey? I mean, the guy isn't exactly in his prime, even in the countries where he is famous. With that said, I don't think it's our job as movie fans to worry too much about the financial viability of such a movie. We should all just be thankful that there was an exec out there somewhere who was dumb enough to greenlight such a good movie. And I'm giving this one an 8 out of 10. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for weekly TV and movie reviews. And if you've had the chance to watch Better Man, jump in the comments and let us know what you thought about it in the comments below. I'm Cinemike, and I'll see you next time.